So let's talk about this. President Trump, he's putting a number of big cities on notice. This is a common thread, maybe. And you know what that is? They all have Democratic mayors. So we want to take a closer look at the politics and the police with D.C. resident and the former chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, and former Charlottesville, Virginia Police Chief RaShall Brackney. Thank you both so much for coming on. RaShall, I'll start with you. They talked about the arrests that have happened since last night, but you believe that this surge of federal authority, federal law enforcement, is not actually going to decrease crime, right?
You know what, that's absolutely correct. And what we might need to think about is, are we using the right tools to address the right problem? And if we're using military presence who are walking through the streets, not trained to do police work, not trained to do any of the non-escalation, de-escalation, and we're looking at crimes of poverty or crimes of age, like truancy and loitering and homelessness, are we really using the right resources to attack it? And then what I also, and no pun intended with the word attack, but I also want to say is, what is the impetus behind this particular action and the ones in LA when these places are not even in the top 20 worst crime cities in the nation? So you have to think, what is the underlying reason
RaShall,
for
let me ask you, the optics-wise, and for people who live in D.C., and we're going to talk to Ronna in a second, they believe that there's a problem. And let me put this up here, too. So he's not wrong, the president, about how Democratic-run cities have higher violent crime and murder rates. If you look at St. Louis, if you look at New Orleans, Detroit, the mayor there was actually changed from a Democrat to independent, Washington, Atlanta, Oakland. I mean, there's something that appears to not be working. So why not make a change and see if this could be effective?
So what has the background told us on any time we've released the military in there? And here's what's so interesting, is that Democrat-run cities, and they're all in Republican states, Orlando and Miami have some of the highest crime rates in the nation. You're right, the majority of the place, and I think we get lost in trying to make this a binary issue. Democratic cities, Republican states. If we really look at what are the impetus of crime, and are we doing the things just because of who are being targeted? And I just want us to think about this for 1 second. Who are we trying to make feel safe? If the reason we deployed the military is because there was a person who was a former federal employee with DOJ, and that got this kind of response, was there anyone else who was carjacked before that didn't look like that DOJ employee or have the access that DOJ employee had? And did we have the same response? So is it because of this one employee, forget all the other D.C. residents that may have had or been a victim of a crime, but one person has wealth and access, and they get the entire military behind them?
Well, let's talk about it. Ronna, what is the timing here? We were talking about it with Joe. There's concern. Is there a proper plan when it comes to homelessness? Do these officers have the proper training? I mean, what is your take on this push now to have hundreds of federal officers now roaming the streets?
Well, I think we should also talk about D.C. The union chief for D.C. said they were 800 short in police here. It's the worst he's ever seen D.C., that officers were spending close to $2 million in overtime. And this is a problem here. And I will tell you, as somebody who's lived here for a long time or had an apartment here, I have a daughter who lives here, it does not feel safe. This should not be a Republican or Democrat issue. We should all feel safe to walk the streets of our neighborhoods. We should feel safe when we're walking to and from our home or going to the grocery store or going to work. And it's not just that young staffer for the administration. A young congressional intern was shot and killed a few weeks ago. That is unacceptable. So if the Democrats are going to continue to double down and say, why are we wanting safety in our country, they're going to lose. Because this is something every American thinks we should have, is safety in our cities and our streets. And I'm glad President Trump is doing this in D.C. Carjackings are an issue. You don't feel safe here. It's just known throughout the district that it has been unsafe. And they do not have enough police officers. And that's coming from the union police representative who heads the whole union in D.C., who said it's been the worst he's ever seen it.
But Ronna, just expanding this past D.C. for a second. We'll focus back on D.C. for a second. But I mentioned this with Elizabeth. We'll put this up too. So 6 of the top 10 states in violent crime are run by GOP governors. So you have Alaska, you have Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, South Carolina, Missouri, which, by the way, is number 9. Should this be expanded? Is this not just on party lines? Is it not just about the president going after democratically run cities with mayors? Should this be expanded to other states as well, red states?
Well, I think those governors should take a look at that. And we don't want any city to be unsafe. And I do think this goes back to this defund the police movement, this demoralization of police, this attacking of men and women who are serving and protecting our communities. You've seen recruitments down. You're seeing people leave this field of profession. And this is making our cities less safe. So Republicans have said we are going to support our law enforcement. We're going to support our men and women in blue. But we want to see our cities safe, and I think those governors should look at it, and I think the president is taking the lead because he does represent the whole country, and he thinks our cities should be safe.
Now, RaShall, obviously I want you to respond to that, but I also have to ask you, you made the comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you think this specific targeting, this specific mentioning of certain states, this may be based on race?
I mean, you have to absolutely think about this. Ronna's comment is interesting. The governors in the red states are going to be given the opportunity to look at it. That didn't happen in California and in D.C. They were forced upon them. Now, what is interesting is they get the opportunity to evaluate it, but we're going to approach something in which they have no expertise in, no one who has this kind of expertise. And look at who's in charge. In D.C., you have a black female mayor, you have a black female police chief, you have a black female district attorney, and then that has to be a problem. And if we were so pro-law enforcement, why did we pardon, including those people who were assaulting police officers on January 6th? Assaulting police officers, and then hire some of them who are in the middle of their investigations and trials into the Department of Justice as a valued employee. When we've said he was screaming, kill the police. So don't become law and order when it's convenient because we think we need votes. And if you also want to talk about people being down in terms of the number of officers, then why do we get rid of some of the grants that we're now trying to reinstate at the last minute? We did this sweeping thing where we pulled the grants from police officers, and then we decided that we were going to do something different. It's not whether we want crime or not safer communities. We want safe communities, but we want them to be policed well, we want them to be policed justly, and we want them to be policed fairly. And as someone who spent 40 years, Ronna, in policing our communities, I think I probably know a little bit more about that than an arbitrary person putting the military in those communities.
Ronna, your response to that, because it is interesting when we talk about what is the discouragement in the police force, if there really are low levels, why is that happening? But your response to RaShall.
Well, first, D.C. does have the funding. It's not a funding issue. There were no grants taken away from D.C. That money was there for them to hire these officers. They're just 800 short. That's just a fact. And Mayor Bowser in D.C. is not fighting back on this. You're not hearing the police in D.C. saying, please don't do this. In fact, the local community has said, we're going to work with the president. They want their community safe, too. And I think every mayor should be doing that. I think the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of any city with high crime should be saying, how do we fix this? Let's work together. If our president's willing to help us, let's do this because we want our communities to be safe. And that should be something across party lines that's bipartisan. But nobody should say it's acceptable to walk from your home and worry about being raped, murdered, or carjacked. We shouldn't have that as our norm in any city, and unfortunately, too many cities have that. Thank you to President Trump for saying, in D.C., enough is enough, and I'm going to take this on in the rest of the country, and I'll work with Republican governors and Democrat governors and Democrat mayors if they're willing to work with me.
Yeah, real quick, RaShall, I want to give you the final word on this, but also address real quickly. The mayor is deferential to the president on this. Is this because she's acknowledging he has more legal authority to do this, or is it because she acknowledges there could be an issue and maybe wants to see how it's going to work?
When you have no power and someone said, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to take over your agency, I'm going to take over your city, and she acknowledges that federally he's been given the laws to do it. She didn't say she's interested. She said, I'm willing to work with him because that's what I've been forced to do.
No, that's what she said. All right. Chief RaShall Brackney, Ronna McDaniel, we can continue this conversation. I'm going to be here all week. We can talk about it again. Thank you both so much. It was good to see both of you.
I'll be here all week, too.
All right, good. I love it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.